Hi, it's Winton Churchill with the Barefoot Consultants, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about what you might want to be thinking about in terms of your technology coming up in 2023. Certainly, I guess as the pandemic is ending, and we've, you know, particularly business and the activity of business is returning to levels that it once was prior to the pandemic. We're still working out what work is all about. You see lots of people, 25% of employees are still working from home at this very moment. Some are working on modified schedules where they might go 3 days a week into the office and stay at home 2 days, or vice versa. I just talked to somebody that goes into the office once a week and works from home the other 4 days, of course, having Zoom calls and conferences and email and using shared applications and that kind of thing. So I wanted to go through what are the things that are really important to have. And this is a little bit like when we help people on our Tuesday night call talking about somebody that has broccoli in the middle of their teeth when they're giving a presentation or something. This is, you kind of have to tell them what's going on because they don't know what's going on. And I found that particularly with baby boomers and 50 plus, we can get some of these problems creeping in, and they think that because they bought a laptop that 7 years ago that it's fine for now because they can do email on it. And when you think about how you earn your money and how you engage your clientele, they're seeing your picture, they're hearing your voice, and you just want to look like you're there and present and not using ancient equipment. I have one friend, bless his heart, he's 83 years old, and he has a camera that looks like it's 10 years old built into his laptop. And it's so bad that you can't even make out facial features or that kind of thing. It's just, it's better to close your eyes and just imagine what they look like rather than do that. And most people are surprised to know that the number one thing that is most important is the sound. And the reason for this is, and in fact, this is one of the reasons that I and a lot of podcasters and other people wear earphones, is that when you don't wear earphones and you have to listen through the background noise and the rain outside or whatever it is, your brain has to do a lot more processing on that. It's separating the background noise from what the person is actually saying. And of course, when you're wearing these, you don't have to do that as much. So the first thing I'm going to do is recommend getting a good microphone. And the way you get a good microphone is you go onto a site like Amazon, and you can get good microphones for under $100. There's some very good ones under $50. And what you do is you look for the most popular microphones in that category. Some are stand-up mics. This one is a little bit more expensive, but this one was only $100 that I have here. But it feeds into a very nice, what they call a preamp system before it comes out to you. And so it boosts and normalizes some of the signals so you can hear my syllables as I'm pronouncing them. And often, if you don't have that kind of system, the audio kind of runs together. You just don't hear it quite the same way. But the sound is the most important thing, because it's very fatiguing to have a Zoom call or be talking to somebody and listening to them. That's what consumes or wears down most our brain power. And I was reading an article recently that said that in terms of fatigue, as compared to sitting down in an office to have a meeting face to face, that is sort of the most comfortable situations for us human beings. But the minute you turn to technology and you get a two-dimensional image instead of a three-dimensional image, and you're basically listening over a wire, that now stresses your sensory systems in terms of how they're receiving the information and that kind of thing. So just so important to get that sound part right. And if you have a limited budget, people will put up with a little bit of a fuzzy video picture, but they won't put up with bad sound. It just fatigues them so much more. And so something to think about with that. And then for your own lack of fatigue, if you're not listening with headphones, what you're hearing that voice. Let me get my finger up, coming through a speaker over there. And when it comes through a speaker, your brain also has to work extra hard to filter out the sound of the refrigerator and the people in the other room and the air conditioner and whatever it might be. And that is very fatiguing. So the consensus or the conclusion of this article is that it takes about twice as much energy to listen to a virtual conversation, both video and audio, as it does to sit in a room with somebody and have a conversation. And so if you ever wonder why, when you have an especially busy day on the system, that you're getting you're just feeling very fatigued at the end of that day, and you may have had 3 or 4 hours on the phone or on the Zoom call like this, and you're just exhausted. And that's why your brain has been doing all that extra processing to put those things together. So you can lower the fatigue sense if you do headphones and if you have a really good microphone. So that's the first thing that I would recommend in terms of getting your your communication game tuned up. Very inexpensive, $50 to $100. You have to know how to read the stars on Amazon. You look for the one that's highest rated, but it can't have 3 reviews. It has the highest rating microphone of the kind you want will have probably thousands of reviews, and it'll have a 5-star rating or 4.5-star rating or something like that. Don't get anything with less than a 4.5-star rating would be my recommendation. Now, the next thing is camera. And where this becomes a problem is that a lot of people have a laptop. Laptop's the great remote work machine. You can take it into the office, bring it home. You can travel with it and that sort of thing. And I know that for me, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago, I used to have a desktop and a laptop. And every time I traveled, I'd have to make sure I got all the things I wanted on my laptop. And sometimes that wouldn't happen. And I'd get someplace and want to work on something, and it wasn't on my system. And I couldn't get to it in the cloud for whatever reason. And that's a very frustrating thing to have happen to you. And but the camera is, again, very important. People like to see facial expressions. They like to see, if you're reacting to something. If you say, well, would you like to do so and so, and the person goes, you see the frown, you see not maybe, that isn't something I want to do, that kind of thing. That's the value of having a good computer, and it lets the people that you're talking to read your facial expressions and that kind of thing. So that certainly raises the quality of communication there. So that's the camera is the next most important thing. And the one that comes in your laptop, depending upon how old it is and how much you paid for it, is important, because the camera is what they would call a checkbox item. The manufacturer of that laptop might say, you know, invest $20 in the camera. They're buying thousands of them, so they get a really good price, and that's what they put in their laptop for their camera. You can buy cameras that are between $50 and $100 that give you a much better picture. And don't fool yourself into thinking that just because your uh, picture, some sort of semblance of video comes through your screen. It's just like if you're watching your TV at home and for some reason the signal goes a little wonky and the person is all of a sudden a little blurry and the screen's got snow on it or whatever it might have, whatever artifact might be going on. You kind of lean into it. It's harder to watch. Might have to squint your eyes or something like that. And so because you're going to be communicating a lot as a freelancer with your clients in the coming year, you want to make sure you're showing up as professionally as you possibly can. So that's another thing that is so very important in terms of the way you show up. And the final thing is maybe one of the more complex points, but you want to eliminate as much shadow on your face as you possibly can. And the way there's several different ways to do that, but one of the easiest ways is to buy supplemental lighting. And again, this is relatively inexpensive. For $50, typically you can buy what's called a ring light. And a ring light gives your camera enough extra light on it to piece that to let your camera piece the image together. When we see a lot of shadows on somebody's faces, we sort of interpret that as, there's a reason that there's the phrase a shadowy figure, is that shadow is to some extent says dishonesty or hiding something or that kind of thing. So a person that's well lit and not in the shadows is one that is often seen as more honest, more open, more energetic, that kind of thing. And so a ring light, a simple change to make. It's something that you can set up right on your desk or right behind the edge of your desk to put a little bit more light. The reason we like the ring light is that it's a softer light, so it doesn't accentuate all those laugh lines that us 50 plus and baby boomers have. It gives a softness to them, and it improves our appearance in that regard. It's like somebody, you prefer to have dinner in a restaurant with kind of soft, comfortable lighting rather than in a restaurant that has bright fluorescent lights that are turned on. So that's what the difference is. And there's Tom. How you doing, Tom? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. And so what I'd like to do is answer any questions you might have about technology going into 2023. Just like in the old days, at New Year's time, you might take some of that Christmas money and go out and buy some new clothes or that kind of thing. Think about sprucing up your wardrobe. You might be starting a new job. I know that's always the time that you think about. You go into the employment place of employment, see how people are dressed. Well, the same is true for freelancers. Some freelancers, even those that work online, occasionally wind up in the offices of the people they're working for. And you just get a sense of what kind of clothes they wear, how do they dress, that sort of thing. So a very good time over this year to just think about who you're going to be talking to. If you're a freelancer that wants to charge $50 an hour, do you look like a $50 an hour freelancer? Big question, big thought process. And what kind of things are you doing in order to make sure that your image and your voice and the way you communicate is coming across as a person, as a professional that is, worthy of earning the kind of income that you're aspiring to. So that's just something to pay attention to. Many of us read a book probably 50 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, called Dress for Success. It was a very popular book. It was based on a study, a psychological study of how people interpret what a person wears to work and what that means to them. And it was a very interesting book. I think it's still around. You can let me see if I can take a quick look at it. Um, and I think some of the rules have changed. Certainly. Yeah, John Malloy was the one that wrote this book. And let me share the screen with you. One second. Get this punched up here. Share screen. Here we go. And we're going to do a Chrome tab. And here's that book, Dress for Success. I know many of you may have seen that. It was on the New York Times bestseller list. But what they did is they would dress people different ways, and then they would run a bunch of people through looking at that person, meeting that person, and just on the basis of their dress, they would ask them. They wouldn't ask them necessarily about their clothing. They would ask, "What was your psychological reaction to that person?" And people would say, "Oh, it seems like a very successful person, very switched on," and they would take the same person and they would dress them completely different ways. So the dress, what they were wearing, male and female, was the thing that was really creating that impression. And it's quite a great book. And I'm certain you could probably find that on Amazon if you went out there and looked around. So let's see. There you go. Make it a little bit bigger here. Oops. There we go. Hey, Bob, welcome in. Good to see you. Yeah, the rules have changed. Bob and I worked in the same office, I don't know, 30 plus years ago. And I guess the dress back then was always a suit and tie, most cases, especially if you were out talking to customers or customers were coming in to visit you. And yeah, the rules have changed. Although I've been watching. There's this guy named Jordan Peterson who sort of gives a lot of advice to younger men. He's a psychologist and best-selling author and that kind of thing. And he's a very big encourager of young people getting started with that this whole idea of dressing for success. And although the fashion style is a little bit different, I don't understand brown shoes and navy blue pants quite yet, but I see a lot of that. And yes, you're right, Bob. The color of the tie really mattered. You know, it really broadcast a message. It set the tone for the whole situation that you were in, and it was quite interesting to see. And those of us that went through careers where, you know, oftentimes you might have had success of one kind or another, but was the success because of something you did, or was it because you up leveled the clothes that you would wear? You know, and sometimes very hard to filter out the difference. So yeah, the dress for success. And the funny thing about system today is that if you're at home and you're on a Zoom call or a video like this, you know, you only have to really dress from about the waist up in order to create that professionalism that you want to bring to what you're doing, or the casualness to what you're bringing to the party. A lot of times in business now, this whole you know, it's more of a business casuals kind of dress than it is a formal dress, but you certainly can be too informal from time to time. So something to think about as you go into the new year? How do you dress for your audience on a Zoom call or that kind of thing? So that's pretty much what wanted to cover today. If you've got any questions, we follow the chat. So happy to put those, answer those questions in there, even to those of you listening on the replay of this. So we'll get on with that and look forward to seeing you on our next Tuesday night call for our members, or right here next Friday for Freelance Friday. So have a great week freelancing. Take care.